Hey everyone, welcome back to Fred's Garage. Thanks for coming. Hey, listen, you see this here? Should be made out of plastic. Definitely should be made out of plastic. This, 100% should be made out of plastic. You know what shouldn't be made out of plastic? Is this right here, man. This rear bumper. This is a Ford Bronco. Come on, Ford. This should be a steel bumper. So you might say to yourself, well, Fred, how come you haven't changed it already? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Most aftermarket bumpers have no place for you to put your license plate. They actually want you to put it up here. Now, come on. Who really wants to put their bumper up there? Okay? So, in today's episode of Fred's Garage, I hooked up with my friends at Hook Road, and they sent me over a really nice metal bumper. Not only is it powder coated, it has a place to hold your license plate where it should be, right here. And on the opposite side, it has two LED lights. So, stick around. We're going to put that bumper on. I'll unbox it. I'll show you what it's all about. And I'll be right back. Alrighty, here she is. So the first thing I can tell you is that it's extremely heavy, okay? So be careful, you might need two people. And we got it from our friends at Hook Road. So let's open the box and see how she comes and see what shape she's in. I already cut the bottom of the box. And you know, it says right on it, keep the box for 30 days in case you want to return it. And that's what we're gonna do. So first off, there's a whole bunch of foam and a whole bunch of plastic, which is good. We don't want any dents, dings, runs, anything like that. All right, let me get it out of the box. All right, so here she is. She's a good-looking bumper. She has a nice powder coat on it. She's made out of steel. She has a place for our license plate. She also has the knockouts for the rear parking sensors. And she has this really nice protective grille, and underneath there's two LED lights. Okay, and I think it's going to be a huge improvement over that thing there. I like it. Like everything in my video, I'm going to show you the product. You make your own decision whether you like it or don't like it. Okay, so let's get at it. We'll start taking that plastic bumper off. Okay. All right, first thing I'm going to do is get this spare tire out of my way. I don't need to be banging my head and myself on this thing here. So we're going to use a 19 millimeter, and we're going to take those lug nuts off. And then we're going to muscle this spare tire. It must weigh about 80 pounds, man. At least 80 to 100 pounds. All right, let me get it off, and then we'll go from there. That thing's heavy. Let's get this out of the way. All right, man. Do yourself a big favor. Take your lug nuts, put them back on there. You don't need to spend 20 minutes trying to find these things. All right. Let's start taking the bumper off. Now that you got the spare tire off, taking this bumper off is pretty straightforward. Where the tow hooks are, or where they would be, there's two 18 millimeter bolts. We're going to take those off. Right next to them is two 13 millimeter bolts, one on each side. We're going to take those 13 millimeters off. In my case, because I don't have the rear parking sensors, I only have one plug on that side of the bumper. If you do have the parking sensors, you'll have another plug on this. So let's crawl underneath and get these 6 bolts off. All right, we're on the passenger side, and here's the tow hook, and here's the two 18s. Right here is the one 13 we have to take off. We don't have to take off these 3 15s. And right up here in my case, you can see it right there, is my plug. I'm going to unhook the plug. So let's do that first. All right, let me bring you in for a close-up on this plug here. If you look on the top here, there's a little knob right there. All you got to do is push that in with your thumb, and the plug comes apart. Okay, so that's done. Next, 13mm bolt. This one here, the one that's on the slot. Let's remove that. And let's remove the one on the opposite side. So just remember, it's just a 13mm bolt that's on the slot, okay? Save these bolts. Okay, right next to the tailpipe, 218mm. 1, 2. All right, same on the opposite side. Tow hook. 1, 2, 2. Well, that's pretty easy. Now all you have to do is grab your bumper and pull it right off. It's nothing. It's nothing but plastic. All right. This is a perfect time for you to add a second tow hook if you'd like, okay? So you can have 2 tow hooks. Some came, some didn't come with them. Right now what we're going to do is head back to the table and do the wiring and get the new bumper all put together, and then we'll throw it right back on. All right, so now we're back at the bumper, and we got to set the bumper up to get it ready to get installed in the car. What comes with the bumper are these really nice directions in color, which is great. So a lot of times you don't get any directions. And there's also a QR code if you want to go online and look at them. Okay? They got good directions right there. We have a bag of bolts and screws and washers. Another nice thing about this bumper is this is stainless steel. So it's going to cut the rust factor down tremendously. As I said, my bumper doesn't have parking sensors. But if you did, you would pop out these plugs. You'd put your parking sensors in, and it comes with 4 little brackets. And these little brackets are going to go in the back with these little Allen head screws and a lock washer. And those will support your parking sensors in place. And then what else it has, the only other thing we have to do besides wiring it is we got to add these little wing tips. These little wing tips go on the end. They go in right up here on the Bronco. I don't know why they're not already part of it, but let's add it in. So to add that in, all you're going to need is to take out the Allen head bolt. You're going to need a split washer, which is right there. And you're going to need the lock nut, which is right here. Okay? So for tools, all you're going to need is a number 5 Allen wrench. Okay? Number 5 Allen wrench. And you're going to need a number 10 millimeter wrench. So let's tilt. So let's tilt this bumper over. And let's do that. And I'm going to bring you in much closer so you can see what's going on. All right, we're going to install this little wingtip. We're going to get our bolt with the lock washer on it. Go from the up down. We're going to get our locking nut from the bottom. Number 5 Allen wrench. Tighten it down. And repeat that on the opposite side. So what I'd like to do right now is to show everyone how I like to wire wires. How I like to secure wires when you have to wire lights or bumpers or or anything you need to wire, okay? Accessory switches. This is the way I like to do it, and it's a good little way of just showing people. So what are we gonna need? We're gonna need a stripper crimper tool, okay? You can get away with just this. This right here happens to be a dedicated crimper tool. Does a much better job than this does, but you can get away with the stripper and the crimper all in one tool. And these range from $10 to $100. It depends on what brand and what you want to get, okay? This part here is the stripper part. This part here is the crimper part. You're gonna need your wires. Now, universally, in the automotive world, black is considered the ground, okay? So we want to try to keep black wire as the ground. And another thing about wiring is you want to make sure that you have a larger wire than needed, okay? So this is 18 gauge wire. If I'm hooking up lights or anything like that, I'm going to use a minimum of 18 gauge wire, okay? Automotive wire. I would rather go larger gauge than smaller gauge, okay? Because of the resistance of the wire and the heat buildup. So 18 is minimum. If I had to do some heavy duty lights, I'd try to go 16. If I'm doing a winch, I'm probably going minimum of 16 or even down to 14 or 12, okay? But use bigger wire than needed. You don't want to ever go smaller wire than the load is to the wire. You're going to need some way to connect the wires. There's multiple ways. This is a crimping butt connector. Oop, let me see if I can get that. This is what's called to secure the wire. This is a crimping butt connector. When you want to hook a ground to a bolt, you're going to either use a loop connector or one of these, I don't know what you call them, open-ended connectors, okay? So you can put it around the bolt, secure it with the bolt. And if you're going to go with the butt connector or any kind of spade connector or anything like that, you'd want to use some heat shrink, okay? There's a black and a red heat shrink, okay? And if you ever seen them, we'll show you. We're going to go through the whole thing real quick. So first thing, let's take our wire, okay? You want to get your stripper part. You want to take out about 1/4 inch. Now, the holes on this are dedicated to the size of the wire, the gauge of the wire. So since this is 18 gauge, I'm going to go where the hole says 18 gauge. I'm going to put in 1/4 inch. Do it. Pull it out. Now my insulation's off. Now if I'm going to use a butt connector, I'm going to give this 3 or 4 twists, make it nice and tight. And then I'm going to get my other end, okay? And I'm going to give it 3 or 4 twists. Now this video is dedicated because I'm adding a light, this bumper that has a light. On the back of this bumper, it has 2 LED lights. So this is displayed by this, 2 LED lights, 2 separate grounds. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my 2 ends, I'm going to put them together, and then I'm going to twist them together, okay? So I have 1/4 inch taken out past the insulation. Then I'm going to get my butt connector, and if you look inside the butt connector, you'll see the metal. It has a little sleeve and you see the metal. These butt connectors come in multiple sizes, but you want to use the size butt connector for the size wire, okay? You don't want to use too large a butt connector. So this is going to fit in there. You're going to twist it in there, and you're going to make sure that you get the insulation as far in as you can, and that the butt connector, the part of the wire you stripped, is inside the butt connector. Then I like to use this dedicated crimper. If you see here, it has red, blue, and yellow. This is red. I'm going to use red. I'm going to place it in there, put it where it needs to be, and I'm going to squeeze it till it clicks. And squeeze it, squeeze it. You just click. You made a perfect crimp. He's going nowhere, okay? And then what I would do is get my ground that I'm going to ground to the frame, ground to another wire, ground to wherever I'm going to ground it to. And I'm going to twist the wire and I'm going to place it in the butt connector. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to feed in a piece of my heat shrink. So because it's the ground, I'm going to use black heat shrink. I'm going to feed that in first so it's in there when I need it. Okay? So now we're going to feed that in there, get the insulation to go inside. See, so we're going to want it like that. So the insulation is right there, so the wire is inside the cavity. Push it in, okay? Get our crimper. Go on the end. See how I'm on the end here? I'm right over the copper wire, so I'm going to go over here over the copper wire. And I'm going to squeeze it till she clicks. Okay? Squeeze her till she clicks. And now I have a perfect crimp. Going nowhere, okay? But it's not watertight. Some of these butt connectors you can buy with heat shrink already built in, especially marine grade ones. But in my case, we fed the heat shrink in there before. So now what we're going to do is just bring the heat shrink I'm going to bring the heat shrink over the ends of the butt connector. So you see it? So now what do? You can use a heat gun. You can use any heat source. You can use a lighter. In my case, I'm going to use this little inexpensive torch. Okay? So we're going to turn it on. And we're just going to lightly and evenly put some heat on it. And you'll see it being drawn in. I don't want to burn the wires. I don't want to go too quick, too close. And I do not want to stop and hold it in one spot. I just want to heat them up, okay? Now, okay, so now it's all done. If you can see on the ends, it's shrunk itself around the wire, it's around the butt connector, and that's a solid, perfect connection, okay? You should have no issues with that connection. Just want to show you this quick little video, just to show you how to do it. It's a good little reference. Everything will be in the description box below. And when you wire stuff, do yourself a favor and wire it properly. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next stage. All right. So this is what we're going to do. I took the two LED lights and I put butt connectors and I joined them so they're both red to red, ground to ground. And we're going to place that right in there. We're going to place our ground wire in there so the insulation fits right up against the metal part. And then we're going to, a positive wire, and then we're going to crimp it till we hear the click. And that has crimped. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to feed. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to put some heat shrink on it. So now she's nice and protected. On this, same thing. Same thing. Put her in there. Put the ground wire. Crimp it. Add some heat shrink. Okay. Use my lighter. And then we're going to secure this when we figure out how we're going to run it into the car. On my ground, when I find my appropriate ground on the frame, I'm going to use this butt connector to attach it to appropriate ground. Let's wire the other side. I did the exact same thing, butt connectors. Ran my harness through. Plug in the harness back into where it goes. I will wire tie it or secure it. It pained me to cut this part off the harness, but I figure I'm never using that bumper again. All right, so we have our license plate lights. We have that reverse LED lights, okay? This video, we're going to install the bumper And that's all the wiring we're going to do. On the next video, I'm going to wire it from my accessory switches through the middle of the quarter panel, out the back to this. But that's going to be a dedicated video on how to get electricity and how to get your accessory switches to the back. Because it really isn't that easy. It's like a 5-step process. And I want to just make a whole video for that. Not only for this bumper, for anybody who wants to wire any lights in the back using their accessory switches. So that'll be the next video. So let's go place this on the truck. If you have help, this is the time you need to get them, because you don't want to scratch your Bronco, and this thing's pretty heavy. Okay, so let's move it over to the truck. All right, so I have my two trusty friends, Home Depot and Lowe's. They're always there for you. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move it right on without scratching the Bronco, and then we'll secure it. All right, she's on. Let's head underneath and bolt her up.
Pipe right next to the exhaust pipe. We're going to tighten the two 19 millimeters. Now let's head over to the driver's side. Make sure you place your tow hook back on and tighten the two 19 millimeters. Do not need 13. Now plug in your license plate light, wire tie it, and feed it through the bumper. And then you wire tie it in a safe location to your license plate light. On the opposite side, we have our two LED lights wired together and temporarily held up by a wire tie.
That's it. We're all done. It's pretty easy. And this bumper is a million times nicer than that old plastic bumper. And it fits perfectly around the seams. I really, really like it. The one thing you are going to need to purchase, and everything will be in the description box below, is you need to get these little nylon clips. I'll show it to you. Little nylon clips. Because these little nylon clips you're going to need to put in here to hold your license plate, okay? But, talking about license plates, now my license plate can go where it needs to be. Make a dedicated video on how to wire those LEDs, because I was looking on YouTube and there's really no clear-cut, easy video on how to get any power back here, whether it's for these LEDs or any backup lights you want, or any lights you want to put back here. So we're going to use the accessory switches and we're going to wire it all the way back here the proper way. But let me bring you in and let you see the bumper. And before you leave, if you like this video, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, the notification button, give me a thumbs up, and leave a comment. And you guys have a great day.